Hi, I'm Karla Schafer, Antique Beads designer, and I will be demonstrating a seed bead framed crystal earring. I'm going to go over the list of tools and supplies needed for this project. I'm going to be working with an 8mm round Swarovski crystal, an 8mm bicone, and would be 6 4mm bicones, and you would also need 2 of the 8mm bicone and rounds for the earrings. I'm also going to be using, in this case, gunmetal ear wires and gunmetal head pins, and I'm using an 8/0 seed bead in a complementary color. I'm actually using a ruby and a silver shade in the Swarovski crystal along with the jet. For tools, it's fairly simple. For making the earring, we're going to need a pair of round nose pliers and chain nose pliers, and we're going to need Fireline, and I'm using a big eye needle, and so you will also need a nipper tool. First thing I need you to do is cut an 18-inch piece of the Fireline, and in this case with my color combination I'm using smoke, and I'm using a big eye needle, and the big eye needle has an eye that is almost the length of the needle itself, so it's supposed to be easier to thread. And I'm going to take my pliers and separate the eye open and slide my thread through. So I've threaded my needle, and the first thing we're going to do is we'll be actually beading each one of these individually. So on the round, 8mm round, I'm going to pick up 6 seed beads, and then I'm going to thread on my 8mm crystal round. I'm going to bring it down. You want to leave yourself about 5 to 6 inches of wire. And then what I'm simply going to do is bring my needle up through all 6 of the seed beads and the others, and back through the crystal. And what this is going to do is create a loop. I'm going to pull it, and what it does is it frames your bead. Then I'm going to run my needle back through the opposite direction of where we just came to tighten this work up. And then back up through the 8mm bead again until my tail meets my working thread. This is a project that was done by Shanna, and it's called Ruby Regal earrings. So this is the video version of those earrings. Now that you've got your 2 threads together, I'm just going to simply tie a square knot. The square knot is left over right, right over left. Once I have my square knot knotted, then I'm going to run my needle back through the 8mm bead again, and I'm going to pick up another 6 seed beads. Since you're doing these beads separately, you could also do several of them and string them into a bracelet, not just earrings, because we're actually framing each bead. So now that we've got those threaded on, I'm going to run my needle opposite direction back through the 8mm crystal and back through the 6 seed beads. And tighten this all back up. So we have this little frame. And just as we did in the first step, we're going to run our needle back through the 8mm crystal, back up through the 6 seed beads, and here, instead of tying a square knot, we're going to go back through the 8mm bead, and at this point we're going to make a couple of half hitch knots. So I'm going to take my needle, and when you do a half hitch knot, you pick up a thread you pick up underneath the thread, make a loop, then I'm going to run it through the seed beads and make a couple of other half-hitch knots. Create a loop and run your needle through it. We're going to do this for both sides. You can do this with other size crystals. You would just need to adjust your number of seed beads. Then I'm going to run it back through the 8mm crystal and work and half hitch the other side. And this just secures our thread. I'm going to make a knot right here at the opening. Oops, almost lost it. There we go. And then I'm going to run it back up. And then we can trim our tails. I'm going to trim. Again, the Fireline can be tough sometimes. You may have to trim and tug on it at the same time. Okay, then we've got our first bead framed, and then we'll frame our bicone, and then we'll put our earring together. Okay, to frame the bicone, we're actually going to use 5 seed beads instead of 6 like we did on the round. So I'm going to pick up 5 seed beads on my needle, and then my crystal. And I'm going to run it down. Again, leave yourself 5 to 6 inches. I run my needle opposite direction back through the seed beads and the crystal. And the tension's kind of important in this, so when you're getting this first one, you might want to pull them both through the tail and the working thread. I'm going to run it back through the bicone. See, then I just pulled my tail out, so you got to watch that. Back through the seed beads. And here I'm going to, again, I've got my tail and my working thread together, and I'm going to tie a square knot. Then I'm going to run the thread back up through the bicone, pick up 5 more seed beads. Run my thread, my needle, opposite direction back through the bicone and then all the seed beads. Back through the bicone and back through the seed beads one more time. Then back up through the bicone, and then we're going to half hitch knot down the side. I'd start with this opposite side here. Run it through a couple of seed beads. Back through the bicone and then half hitch knot again on the other side. And I accidentally gotta watch that. I accidentally slipped the knot on the other side of the seed bead. You just need to loosen it and bring it back over. Sometimes it's just a matter of slipping it back over. And then back through. And I'm going to do another half hitch knot. And back up through the bicone, and then I'm going to trim the tails again. Then we'll be ready to assemble our earring. So what I'm going to do for the earring is I'm going to take a head pin, and then I like to kind of fill in these little spaces that it's created, with the frame is created. So I'm going to use a bicone on the bottom of the head pin. Then I'm going to drop the round. See how it kind of fills in. Then I'm going to add another bicone. I'm going to add the 8mm framed bicone. Then you add another 4mm. Then I'm just going to wrap a loop here at the top. Then I'm going to use my chain wheel pliers to help me wrap. Get it nice and tight. Then I'm going to trim that with the nipper tool. Tuck in the little tail. And then you just add the ear wire. And you've created your earring.